Hey, I'm John Hazel, automation expert and business strategist.
I'm Kevin Miller, software lead and seasoned podcaster.
And this is the Automate and Elevate podcast, where we help you build systems, create leverage, and scale your business.
On today's episode, we're going to dive into how unexpected situations can sometimes turn into your bigger victories. John, today you've had a pretty interesting situation, or maybe not today, but this week, where you were using Claude, and initially it seemed like a mistake, but it ended up actually becoming of a big benefit to you. Can you dive into that?
Yeah. So I've been knowing that I need to hire one role in particular for the next. I've known this for like the past 3 weeks, but I've been procrastinating it. I did the job post, but then I let a week or two go by, and I kind of hate that because there's all these people that are, have put in their job applications. They're hoping to have a conversation. I want to bring closure to people as quickly as possible, and I need to make sure that I'm prepared because I knew I had a new contract starting August 1st, and I needed to have somebody onboarded by then. So, in order to unblock it, I finally was like, you know what, I'm going to use Claude Cowork, and so now I had already built out a pretty robust Claude skill around my hiring pipeline, my styles, the like each different email, what the focus is on each email. So I do like 4 rounds of email interviewing. Um, and then test projects and like how I build test projects. I actually pay for my test projects, so I'm not asking them to do work for free, even though most of it is not actually going to get used in the real world. But I pay them for it, and I'll usually get it down to like 3 or 4 candidates, and then pay them do paid test projects. And by the end of that, I usually have a pretty good idea of who I should hire. So I've got this Claude skill built out, and so I let Claude Cowork loose on it. I have the Claude in Chrome extension. I had the platform open where I hire through and communicate with applicants and all that, and I just had Claude do it. And a few times a day, I would just re-trigger the Claude Cowork process and say, hey, where are we at? Check on my inbox, go through the next round of interviews, whatever I had to say to get it to keep going. And it went pretty well. But I asked it to create the test projects, and I realized that because I had Claude Cowork in like full automate mode, or auto, it's called automatically approve mode, right? So you can have manually approve, automatically approve, or skip all approves, which is like the fully automatic approve. So I had it in just the middle, the automatically approve. So Claude Cowork created its own test projects and then sent them to 6 different candidates, that everybody who had finished the email interviewing process. And I caught it later, and I was like, you weren't supposed to do that. You were just supposed to create them. And I had actually already created some good test projects with just a Claude chat before. And so I was going to kind of compare them. But anyway, so it sent him off. I was like, well, that's annoying. Now I got to pay all these people. And by the way, you set the price too high on what I'm paying them for. So now, I mean, I'm going to honor my word, even though, it's my AI that made the mistake. This is a funny, let me just go on this quick rabbit trail, but there's this debate about like who's responsible if an AI agent does something illegal or something like that. And I'm like, the person who sent the AI agent out there. I think people want to blame the model provider on some level, but I'm like, I like, do you blame a hammer maker if somebody uses a hammer to kill somebody? Like, no, it's not. It's yes, it's like a little bit different because it's like this is a much more complex tool and powerful, and but the person who gave it the tools and said do this thing, that's the person who's responsible. So to me, I'm responsible. I told them I'm going to pay them $20 each, and it's not like it was a very simple project, not even worth that much, but I'm going to follow up on it and do it. So I was kind of annoyed with Cowork for that. And then by the end, I was like, are these even good candidates? It's kind of hard to tell because in this particular case, it's really easy for them to use AI and make something look really good. And so I have to dig into what's their actual thought process. And normally, I actually don't even do video or audio interviews. I actually mostly do the interviewing over email, and then I rely heavily on the test projects to decide. But at this point, I was like, I can't tell. I got to do a video interview and I got to have them walk me through their thought process. And so I did that. There's two different people I did that, or two different roles I did that with this week, and I hired both. And just a couple days in, I already feel pretty confident about the hires that I made. So it's worth it to have a bias towards action. It's worth it for, the extra little bit of money I had to spend because of Cowork's mistake. Obviously, it was working within some level of boundary, and I was monitoring relatively closely every day. But there's going to be some margin for error, so you got to decide what's my risk tolerance, what's my margin for error. Do I have healthy limits and boundaries around this? And by the way, after those mistakes, I told Claude what it did. And I said, you need to update the skill to make sure this doesn't happen again. And I actually reviewed the Claude skill, and it very explicitly set it up so that this won't happen again. Test projects have to go through me, manual approval process, period. So anyway, that's what I've been up to this week.
Yeah, so it seems like while in this case it played out towards the positive, if you're not careful, it could also, if you're not setting the appropriate safeguards, it could have been disastrous.
Yeah, it can be. I mean, Claude is pretty well aligned, especially like my Claude, as far as the instructions I have and the skills that I have in there. But this was an example where, yeah, it did its own thing. Also, one of the big news stories in AI the last few weeks is OpenAI had a new model that they're training, and they put it in a sandbox, and it's an agentic AI, and it was given this task. I think the task was to, like, basically it's this eval test that it's supposed to pass, right? And so rather than just trying to pass the eval test, this agentic AI went out into it, it broke out of its sandbox. It figured out a way to get out into the open web, and then it hacked into Hugging Face's website, into their server, and tried to go find the answers to the evals. Like it basically went out on the open web, figured out that Hugging Face is the place that hosts the eval that it's supposed to solve, and like it's the equivalent of a high school student like breaking into the back office and trying to get the answers to the test out of some file cabinet or whatever, right? Which relatively harmless on some level, but technically, like if a human being had hacked into Hugging Face's server, they could spend some, potentially time in prison depending on what they did. like, but because it was agentic AI and everybody's excited about it, and it was like Hugging Face was celebrating with, they were like, we're partnering with OpenAI to see what happened here and improve things, but there was like a celebration around it, and it's pretty ironic. So right now, it wasn't super harmful, but it was an example of like this has the potential for great harm. So, yeah, you want to have boundaries. You want to make sure that there's like limits to, hey, you're allowed to use this much usage, this much tokens. You're allowed to go this far, and the more you hone in those boundaries, Claude is pretty well aligned. So if you're doing it in the skills or in your personal instructions in Claude, it's not likely to violate those boundaries, but it still can like hallucinate and make mistakes. So it's an interesting thing.
Yeah, I think just setting the appropriate boundaries. And has there ever been a case where it stepped outside of the boundaries, whether expectedly or unexpectedly, and kind of just did what did its own thing despite you saying don't do this?
Yeah, for sure. I think what happens is conflicting, basically conflicting instructions. I don't know what's in the system prompt. I don't know what's in the training. I mean, I know the entire internet is in the training data, but sometimes like different different things get weighted differently. And so, for example, I have in my instructions in Claude, never use em dashes, which is like when a really long hyphen, right? Because for whatever reason, AI abuses em dashes and they're just like all over the place. And so then you can tell AI wrote this. So I don't want it to be so obvious that AI wrote something that I had it right. So I say don't use em dashes. Um, I've had that for like probably a couple of years, and a lot of times it would not honor that request. It was in my custom instructions. It was injected into every single prompt, and like sometimes it would honor it and sometimes it wouldn't. And lately, with the modern models, I've found that it always honors it if it's in my custom instructions. I have not had one time where it's output text and those em dashes were in it. So it's, this is what we call alignment, right? Like, is it aligning with the system instructions, with the system prompt, with the instructions that you give it? And it's doing a lot better. But those are obviously, like, that's a harmless one, but it's still ultimately it's a machine, and it can still make mistakes.
Yeah, I think that's really important to realize because like you mentioned, it went into another company's website and hacked it to get the answer. So if you're telling it to do something, what if it hacks into somebody else's website and you're potentially liable? So I think like setting appropriate safeguards and making sure that it stays within those bounds is extremely important so that you don't go down that bad path. But in terms of like victories, like what have you found gives you like the result you're looking for more often than not?
In general or in AI chats?
Yeah, in terms of like you interacting with these agents.
Yeah. I mean, I think the biggest thing is like just do it and just play with it, and you start to develop an intuition. And it's been that way for 3 years. Like with ChatGPT 3.5, I was constantly like pushing the bounds of what can it do and how can I would notice, for example, people would be like, you know, ChatGPT doesn't even know how many R's are in strawberry, and it would say there's 2 R's or whatever. Um, so to me, I would think like, well, yeah, it's a large language model. Like you're asking it a question that doesn't make sense with how the way it's designed. And now it can count the number of R's in strawberry, but actually it's probably not even counting it. It's probably at one point it was just in the system prompt. It was just like, hey, if someone asks you this question, which is like such a band-aid fix, right? But now they're getting a lot smarter with tool use, and like knowing the model now knows what it is good at and what it's not good at. And so it'll create, rather than trying to generate a response for that, it would create a Python script that counts the number of R's in the word strawberry, right? So it's gotten a lot better with these things. But for me, I would just say, every time you're about to do a task, think about, um, is there a way I can do this with Claude? And maybe just ask your chatbot, like, this is what I'm about to work on. How can I make this more efficient with AI? And I would even say, like, don't try to force a solution. Don't try to force a way to make this more efficient or automate this. Like, practically, is there a quick and easy way I can do this more efficiently, right? And for me, that alone can be very valuable. Where I just, like, if I feel like I'm procrastinating on a task, or I feel like I'm dreading a task because it's something mundane, or because I just feel too busy with things, like, I'll just start a quick chat and be like, hey, this is, and almost just like verbally process it, and then usually Claude's going to find a way to be helpful.
So you have to kind of dive back into the hiring process. You hired a couple of people. What were some of the like the green flags that told you that these potential candidates were someone you want to bring on and bring into your organization?
Yeah, so with my hiring process, I'll hire someone for one particular specialty. Like, I'm usually hiring them to do multiple things, but there's one thing I need them to be really good at. And so I'm looking at, so one of the persons, I needed them to be pretty good at paid ads. Now, I'm not, I'm kind of looking for somebody who's younger in their career and they're looking for a place to grow, because I can't afford somebody who's like a 20-year veteran. And I also just enjoy that. I appreciated the opportunities I was given when I was younger, and I love giving young people opportunities to just like learn on the job. So I, in the video interview, I was actually having that person like guide me through, what would you like, basically guide me through the test projects that they wrote, and like how did you come to that conclusion? Because I want to make sure I want them to use AI, but I want to make sure they used AI to, like, that they had the core idea and they used AI to expand on that idea and to like write the text copy, so they're not wasting their time writing much text copy. But I want to make sure they understand the thinking process behind it. And I'm cool with them even brainstorming with AI. And if AI came up with the idea, as long as they understand the why behind it truly. And so I would ask her those, and I would expect a pretty quick answer. I balance between, like, of course, there's the opportunity to, like, AI has gotten so fast that basically she could be transcribing what I'm saying and it's going into AI and then immediately getting a response, right? But I was able to kind of tell when she's just like collecting her thoughts, analyzing the actual test projects that she had already submitted, and like recalling these things, right? Versus asking AI on the fly, right? So there's a little bit of intuition there. And then also watching somebody actually navigate around the platform, and you can tell immediately if someone's very familiar with the platform or not, right? So in that case, it's that, like, in the email interviewing, in the test projects, I'm filtering out all the candidates that have no idea what they're talking about, right? So by the time I get to the video interview, it's a pretty serious prospect.
And how much of the actual skill set that you're looking for do they already have to have expertise in, or is it more so I'm analyzing their thought process and I can teach them what they need to know, but I just need to, kind of, determine their attitude before I bring them on.
Yeah, it depends on the role. For these two roles, like, one, I needed them to be well versed in at least Meta ads or Google ads. I was like, if you know one of them really well, it's not going to take a lot for you to understand the other one. And then the other role was Salesforce. I needed them to be well versed in how to use Salesforce, and so those were kind of non-negotiables. It was like, I need to see you navigate this platform and really well. Um, and then, you know, with the marketing person, I also needed them to operate in Klaviyo for email marketing stuff, Shopify, and like several other platforms. But those were ones that I was like, these are the things that are easy. They're also the things that I know really well. And and my team knows well. My existing team knows well and can train you on. So I'm not worried about those things, and they're not hard. Um, I need to know, can you analyze the performance of an ad and tell me why it didn't perform well? Do we need to focus on the creative? Do we need to focus on the call to action or the landing page? Do we need to focus on, like, was the budget just too low? And it was like, we can't realistically expect more out of that budget. Like, I need someone who can think analytically around those things, and that was the non-negotiable. So you're choosing like one or two non-negotiables, and then you have a few other things that you're maybe putting on the job posting, putting on in the emails, and saying like, I'll train you on these things if needed, but just as a heads up, right? Because I don't want people to self-disqualify, and you're going to end up with some terrible generalists if you make um, everything a requirement, right? Then it's like the truly competent people will self-disqualify, and you'll end up with a really poor pool.
So I know you do consulting. So how can you utilize what we just talked about today to bring value to someone's business to kind of close this out?
Yeah, several different ways. I mean, I can help you actually hire somebody if you need somebody internally. I can analyze your business and see what are the things that are really the barriers from now to the next level of scale, and can we put together some kind of consulting project that's going to break through that barrier. Um, Anything from marketing to web development to AI automation. Um, and Yeah, I've kind of listed off all those things, but ultimately it's like you need an outside perspective to help you see what's slowing you down in your business right now. And then you need to be equipped with the right tools and resources to hit the next level.
Awesome, man. Before we get out of here, where can people reach out to you if they want to work with you? And did you have any other closing thoughts?
Yeah, please connect with me on LinkedIn. I would love to chat and reach out to me there. And then, of course, you can learn more about me and the business, Hazel Eyes, at johnhazel.com. And I look forward to chatting.
Awesome. And we'd like to thank everybody for tuning in. Catch y'all next time.
Thanks.